The story of hacking begins long before computers became personal. It begins with curiosity, the deep human desire to know what lies beyond the limits of what's allowed. In the early days of technology, hacking didn't mean stealing data or breaking into systems. It meant exploration. It meant learning how things worked beneath the surface and finding clever ways to make them do more than they were designed for. The roots go back to the 1950s, when the word hack was used at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, known as MIT. Back then, a hack was a clever or inventive solution, not something malicious. Students in the Tech Model Railroad Club were among the first to use the word in a technical context. They loved taking apart electronic relay systems that powered their model trains, rewiring them to do complex tasks. They called these clever modifications hacks. By the early 1960s, computers were enormous machines that filled entire rooms. MIT had one of the most advanced, the TX-0, and later the PDP-1. These machines fascinated the young students who would later become the world's first hackers. People like Peter Deutsch, Alan Kotok, and Bill Gosper spent nights in the computer lab writing programs, sharing code, and experimenting freely. They weren't breaking laws, they were building a culture of exploration that valued freedom of access, sharing of knowledge, and hands-on learning. This spirit became known as the hacker ethic. The hacker ethic believed in principles that would shape computing culture forever. Access to computers should be unlimited, information should be free, and authority should be questioned. Hackers believed that by understanding how systems worked, they could make them better. As the 1960s turned into the 1970s, computers began spreading beyond universities and research labs. The first real incidents of computer hacking, meaning unauthorized access, started appearing. One of the earliest examples came from the telephone system, known as phone phreaking. This was a hobby that explored the global telephone network. Phone phreaks learned how the tones in the phone system worked and discovered that by mimicking them, they could make free long-distance calls. A blind man named John Draper, also known as Captain Crunch, became famous in the early 1970s for discovering that a toy whistle from a cereal box could produce the same frequency, 2,600 hertz, that controlled phone lines. With it, phreaks could trick the system into giving them free calls. Draper and others didn't see this as crime. They saw it as a challenge, a way to understand how the system worked. But the phone companies didn't agree, and soon phreaking became illegal. Still, this era set the stage for modern computer hacking. As personal computers started appearing in homes in the late 1970s and early 1980s, a new generation of hackers emerged, curious young people exploring machines like the Apple II, Commodore 64, and Atari. Many of them learned to program by typing code from magazines or trading floppy disks filled with homemade software. But curiosity sometimes crossed into forbidden territory. In 1981, a group of students in Milwaukee formed the 414 Seconds, named after their local telephone area code. They hacked into systems at Los Alamos National Laboratory, Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and even a bank. They didn't steal money or destroy data. They just wanted to see what was inside. Still, it was one of the first major hacking cases in the United States, and it caught the attention of the FBI. By 1983, hacking had entered mainstream awareness. The movie War Games captured public imagination with a story about a teenager who nearly starts World War III by accidentally hacking a military computer. It was fiction, but it reflected a real fear that computer networks were becoming powerful and vulnerable. That same year, the U.S. government formed new laws and task forces to combat unauthorized computer access. The 1980s became the golden age of hacking groups. In Germany, the Chaos Computer Club, founded in 1981, became a symbol of ethical hacking. They exposed security flaws in government and corporate systems, but also advocated transparency and freedom of information. In the United States, underground communities began forming on electronic bulletin board systems, or BBS. Groups like Legion of Doom, Masters of Deception, and Cult of the Dead Cow became legends of the hacker underground. These groups operated in the shadows, but often respected unwritten rules. Don't destroy data, don't profit illegally, and share what you learn. Yet as computer networks grew, connecting schools, businesses, and governments, the line between exploration and crime became thinner. When the internet began connecting major institutions in the late 1980s and early 1990s, the hacker world transformed again. Early hackers used simple tools like Telnet and FTP to explore remote systems. Passwords were often left as defaults. Guest, root, or admin. It was a new digital frontier, wide open and poorly secured. The 90s brought both chaos and creativity. In 1994, Kevin Mitnick became the most wanted hacker in America. He was accused of breaking into major corporations like Motorola and Sun Microsystems, stealing software, and evading the FBI for years. When he was finally arrested in 1995, his story became a media sensation. Mitnick's case showed how vulnerable the digital world had become. At the same time, hacking was evolving into an art form. Hackers began writing viruses and worms not just to damage systems, but to prove points about security. The Morris worm of 1988, created by Robert Tappan Morris, accidentally shut down thousands of computers across the early internet. It was one of the first signs that code could move and replicate itself, causing massive disruption. The rise of the World Wide Web in the mid-90s brought a new wave of opportunity and new risks. Websites, e-commerce, and online banking became targets. Hacking shifted from hobby to profession, from curiosity to crime. As the millennium approached, governments and corporations started realizing how much power hackers could hold. The late 1990s saw the rise of hacktivism, hacking for political or social causes. Groups like Economies and LulzSec would later take inspiration from these early movements. By the early 2000s, the internet had become the central nervous system of modern life. Every connection, from financial systems to national defense, depended on networks of computers, and hackers adapted quickly. They organized into more specialized groups: black hats, white hats, and gray hats. Black hats sought personal gain or power, stealing data, spreading ransomware, and selling information. White hats, on the other hand, worked to secure systems. They were ethical hackers, hired by companies to test and fix vulnerabilities. Gray hats walked the line, exploring systems without permission but often revealing flaws publicly. The early 2000s saw a flood of cyber attacks. In 2000, a 15-year-old from Canada named Michael Kelsey, known as Mafia Boy, launched denial-of-service attacks that shut down Yahoo, eBay, CNN, and Amazon. His attacks overwhelmed websites by flooding them with traffic, making them inaccessible. It was a wake-up call. A teenager could disrupt global corporations with just a computer and skill. Around the same time, the world witnessed the first organized cybercrime networks. Eastern European groups began writing malware like I Love You and Melissa, which spread through email attachments and caused billions in damages. Governments realized this wasn't just mischief anymore, it was digital warfare. After the attacks of September 11, 2001, cybersecurity became a matter of national defense. Intelligence agencies invested heavily in monitoring, encryption, and cyber operations. Nations began forming their own offensive hacking units, from the United States Cyber Command to China's PLA Unit 61398 and Russia's state-sponsored groups. Meanwhile, hacktivist collectives gained global attention. Anonymous, born from the message boards of 4chan in the mid-2000s, became a decentralized movement fighting censorship and corruption. Their attacks on the Church of Scientology, PayPal, and government websites made them folk heroes to some and digital terrorists to others. In 2010, something unprecedented happened. A cyber weapon called Stuxnet was discovered. It targeted Iran's nuclear facilities and was capable of physically damaging machinery, something no piece of code had done before. Investigations revealed it was likely created by the United States and Israel. Stuxnet marked the dawn of cyber warfare. At the same time, corporations began facing constant attacks. Massive data breaches hit Sony, Target, and Yahoo, exposing millions of personal records. Credit card numbers, passwords, and even social security information were leaked online. The dark web, hidden behind encryption and anonymity, became a black market for stolen data. Hackers evolved again. They began using advanced social engineering, phishing, and ransomware to extort money from victims. In 2017, the WannaCry ransomware attack infected hundreds of thousands of computers across the world, crippling hospitals, banks, and companies. As artificial intelligence and automation emerged, hackers started using machine learning to find vulnerabilities faster. Security researchers responded in kind, building AI-driven defense systems. The battle became algorithm versus algorithm, a digital arms race. By the early 2020s, hacking had become a weapon, a business, a political tool, and a form of protest. As the world entered the digital age of the 2020s, the word hacker no longer meant a lone figure in a dimly lit room. It described entire industries, government divisions, and underground economies. Hacking had become part of geopolitics, business strategy, and even warfare. Nation-state hackers began targeting not just data, but public trust. Disinformation campaigns used bots and social media manipulation to shape opinions and elections. The idea of cyber influence operations replaced the old concept of propaganda. Russia's alleged interference in the United States election in 2016 marked a turning point. Instead of traditional espionage, hackers used stolen emails and coordinated leaks to influence public perception. This event taught the world that hacking was no longer just about stealing information, it could reshape societies. Meanwhile, China was accused of conducting massive cyber espionage campaigns aimed at intellectual property theft. Western companies claimed billions in losses as patents, designs, and corporate secrets were copied and repurposed abroad. In response, the United States and its allies began investing heavily in counter-hacking, threat intelligence, and cyber resilience. The private sector also transformed. Ethical hacking became a profession. Companies like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft began offering bug bounties, rewards for hackers who discovered vulnerabilities responsibly. What began as an underground skill became a legitimate career. Penetration testers, red teams, and security researchers became highly sought after. Hackers were no longer seen only as threats. They became guardians of cyberspace, identifying weaknesses before criminals could exploit them. But the line remained thin. Some hackers who started ethically later crossed into darker territory, tempted by money or ideology. The COVID pandemic of 2020 accelerated digital transformation, and with it, cybercrime. As millions of people moved their work, education, and finances online, attackers followed. Phishing scams surged, exploiting fear and confusion. Ransomware groups like REvil and DarkSide emerged, launching targeted attacks against hospitals, pipelines, and government agencies. In one infamous case, in 2021, the Colonial Pipeline in the United States was shut down by ransomware, causing fuel shortages across several states. It was a stark reminder that cyber attacks could disrupt real-world infrastructure. Governments began defining cyber attacks as acts of war. NATO announced that severe digital attacks could trigger collective defense under Article 5. Military doctrines started including cyber offense as a battlefield domain, alongside land, sea, air, and space. By the mid-2020s, the landscape of hacking had diversified into several fronts. There were cybercriminal syndicates operating for profit, state-sponsored hackers serving national interests, hacktivists pushing political messages, and independent researchers working for knowledge and ethics. The dark web remained the shadowy marketplace of this world. Hidden behind layers of encryption, it hosted everything from stolen data and hacking tools to illegal arms and human trafficking networks. Yet, ironically, it also became a refuge for whistleblowers and journalists, offering anonymity and protection from surveillance. Anonymous. once a chaotic collective of digital rebels, continue to resurface in global events, from supporting protesters in Iran and Hong Kong to exposing corruption in various regimes. Though leaderless, their digital fingerprints appeared wherever freedom of speech was at risk. Meanwhile, corporations developed increasingly advanced cybersecurity systems powered by artificial intelligence. Machine learning algorithms scanned for anomalies in network traffic, predicting attacks before they happened. But hackers adapted quickly, using AI themselves to evade detection. The result was a digital arms race with no end in sight. Cybersecurity experts began warning that future wars might not start with missiles, but with malware. The power grid, water supply, transportation networks, and communication satellites all could be targeted by a few lines of code. In this high-stakes world, the hacker was no longer just a threat or a hero, but an inevitable presence, a reflection of the same curiosity that drove those early MIT students decades ago. The tools had changed, the stakes had grown, but the core remained: to understand, to explore, and to challenge boundaries. As the story of hacking deepened, its history began to divide into eras, each defined by a new technology, a new philosophy, or a new threat. The early era of exploration gave birth to the modern age of cyber warfare. Yet, behind every keystroke, the hacker's spirit of discovery persisted. To understand how hacking became what it is today, it helps to trace its evolution through the key technological revolutions that shaped computing itself. In the 1950s and 60s, hacking was hardware. In the 70s and 80s, it was software. In the 90s, it became networked. In the 2000s, it became global. And in the 2020s, it became intelligent, driven by artificial intelligence and automation. The earliest hackers dealt with switches, circuits, and mainframes. They soldered wires, punched cards, and wrote machine code. Their exploits involved tricking mechanical systems. But when microcomputers arrived, hacking moved from the laboratory to the living room. During the 80s, magazines like 2600, the Hacker Quarterly, and early online boards like phreaking became the underground universities of hacker culture. They taught programming, phone phreaking, and security bypassing to anyone curious enough to read. There were no formal degrees in cybersecurity then. These communities trained the pioneers of both ethical hacking and cybercrime. As dial-up modems connected personal computers to global networks, hackers began exploring a new frontier: cyberspace. Bulletin board systems linked thousands of users across countries. Text-based communication gave birth to hacker aliases, secret handles, and reputations built on code rather than identity. Some became infamous for digital break-ins. Others became legends for sharing tools and tutorials. For many, hacking wasn't about profit. It was about recognition, a kind of intellectual sport. But the media rarely made that distinction. To the public, all hackers were criminals. The term cyberpunk became a cultural symbol of rebellion against systems of control. Science fiction novels like William Gibson's Neuromancer turned the hacker into a mythic anti-hero, a digital outlaw navigating virtual worlds. This image shaped an entire generation of technologists. Many of the world's greatest programmers, engineers, and cybersecurity experts were inspired by that romantic view of hacking, not to destroy, but to master the machine. By the time the internet went mainstream in the late 1990s, hacking had matured into a complex ecosystem. Some hackers created open-source software and built the foundations of the modern web. Others exploited weaknesses in the same systems. It was a paradox. Hackers both built and broke the internet. The dot-com boom of the early 2000s brought immense wealth, but also massive security blind spots. Startups focused on speed and innovation, often neglecting safety. Hackers capitalized on this, launching SQL injection attacks, defacements, and worms that spread like wildfire. The infamous Code Red and Nimda worms in 2001 infected millions of computers worldwide. Governments and corporations realized that cybersecurity wasn't just an IT issue, it was an existential one. From that point on, hacking evolved faster than legislation could keep up. Lawmakers struggled to define what was legal or ethical in a world where information flowed freely and anonymously. International treaties like the Budapest Convention tried to create common ground for fighting cybercrime, but enforcement remained difficult. Hackers operated across borders, identities hidden, motives unknown. The internet had become the new Wild West, and hackers were both its outlaws and its pioneers. As the 21st century advanced, hacking began to shape economies, politics, and even culture. Cryptocurrency gave hackers a new tool and a new target. Bitcoin, created in 2009, was designed to be decentralized and anonymous, perfect for a community that valued freedom and distrust of authority. But it also enabled a new wave of digital crime. Ransomware payments, dark web marketplaces, and money laundering all thrived through cryptocurrencies. What began as a technological revolution for freedom quickly became an engine for both innovation and exploitation. Hackers built underground economies worth billions. Markets like Silk Road, Alphabay, and Hydra traded drugs, data, and digital exploits hidden behind the Tor network. Law enforcement agencies worldwide waged war against these networks, but each takedown was followed by a dozen new ones. At the same time, corporations began embracing hackers as allies. The concept of red teams, groups hired to simulate attacks, became mainstream. Cybersecurity became one of the fastest-growing industries in the world. Ethical hackers were now being paid six figures to do what once got people arrested. Universities launched cybersecurity degrees. Governments offered training programs. The hacker, once a symbol of rebellion, became part of the establishment. Yet, the duality never vanished. For every ethical hacker defending networks, there was another probing them for profit or espionage. Cybercrime syndicates from Eastern Europe, ransomware as a service providers, and state-backed operations turned hacking into a global economy of chaos. Then came the era of artificial intelligence and quantum computing. AI brought automation, pattern recognition, and self-learning algorithms into both attack and defense. Quantum computing, though still in its infancy, threatened to break the very encryption that secures the internet. The hacker's battlefield expanded beyond computers into cars, drones, smart homes, and even medical devices. Everything connected to the internet became a potential target and a potential weapon. In this interconnected world, the hacker's role evolved from outsider to inevitable participant in every digital system. Some were villains, others heroes, but all shared the same DNA of curiosity, ingenuity, and defiance. By the mid-2020s, humanity entered an era where hacking no longer required deep technical mastery, only access to the right tools. What once took elite knowledge could now be achieved with automated scripts, AI-driven exploit kits, and step-by-step tutorials found online. The democratization of hacking blurred the lines between professional attackers, hobbyists, and opportunists. Phishing kits could be purchased for a few dollars. Malware builders came with graphical interfaces. Even ransomware could be rented on subscription plans, a dark mirror of Silicon Valley's software-as-a-service model. The dark web turned hacking into an economy of convenience. But this mass accessibility also empowered defenders. Open-source tools like Metasploit, Wireshark, and Nmap became essential learning platforms for security enthusiasts. Cybersecurity became not just a career path, but a civic necessity. People began realizing that knowing how to defend yourself online was as vital as locking your doors at night. Governments launched national cybersecurity strategies, forming agencies dedicated to digital defense. The United States created Cyber Command. The European Union established ENISA. China, Russia, and India developed equivalent structures, each training cyber units to both protect and project digital power. Cyber defense became the new nuclear deterrent. Nations demonstrated their capabilities not through physical destruction, but through digital infiltration. A silent war unfolded, invisible to the public, yet capable of crippling entire economies. One of the most chilling aspects of this new age was the blending of artificial intelligence with hacking. Attackers began using AI to write phishing emails that perfectly mimicked real communication, to generate deepfake videos of world leaders, or to analyze vulnerabilities faster than humans could patch them. At the same time, defenders built AI-driven intrusion detection systems, predictive analytics, and autonomous firewalls. The battlefield had become algorithm versus algorithm, machines fighting machines in milliseconds. Quantum computing, still experimental but rapidly advancing, loomed as the next major shift. Its ability to perform parallel calculations on a massive scale could render current encryption obsolete. The RSA and ECC algorithms that secure banking, messaging, and the internet itself might one day fall in seconds to quantum attacks. This prospect sparked an urgent race toward post-quantum cryptography. New forms of encryption resistant to quantum threats. Universities, government agencies, and tech companies collaborated to design mathematical defenses strong enough to withstand the coming revolution. Through all of this, one thing remained constant. Hacking evolved alongside every innovation. From the earliest telephone networks to the future of quantum internet, hackers adapted, learned, and exploited. The story of hacking is, in essence, the story of human adaptability. Yet beneath the technical layers lies a philosophical question that has haunted the hacker community since its birth. Is hacking inherently good or evil? The answer depends on intent. To hack is to understand, to explore, to improve, or to subvert. The same skill can either protect life or destroy it. Throughout history, hackers have stood at the crossroads between progress and chaos. When ethical, they have driven innovation, discovering flaws, creating security standards, and empowering privacy. When malicious, they have fueled theft, manipulation, and fear. The duality mirrors humanity itself. Every technological leap brings both light and shadow. The internet connected the world, but also enabled surveillance. Artificial intelligence brings knowledge, but also deception. Quantum computing promises speed, but threatens secrecy. In that sense, the hacker is the modern Prometheus, stealing fire from the digital gods and giving it to humanity, sometimes for good, sometimes for destruction. But beyond ethics and power, hacking has also become culture. What began as a subculture of computer enthusiasts grew into an identity defined by independence, creativity, and defiance. Hacker conventions like DEF CON, Black Hat, and Chaos Communication Congress became global gatherings of minds. There, hackers share exploits, research, and philosophies under the belief that knowledge should be free and that curiosity is sacred. Inside these spaces, the hacker ethos, hands-on learning, distrust of authority, and open access thrives. It is a living continuation of that early MIT spirit where students once hacked trained systems for fun and innovation. Modern hacking also intersects with activism. From WikiLeaks to whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, digital leaks have exposed government surveillance and corporate misconduct. Whether viewed as heroes or traitors, these figures represent the power of information in an age where truth itself can be manipulated. Meanwhile, hacktivist collectives continue to challenge censorship, expose corruption, and amplify voices in oppressed regions. Their actions often divide opinion, celebrated by some, condemned by others, but they highlight a central truth. Hacking is a form of digital resistance. At its heart, hacking has always been about control, not just of systems, but of destiny. It is about refusing to accept limitations imposed by others. That same impulse drives innovation in every field, from science to art. Hacking simply expresses it through code. As the 2030s approach, the story of hacking enters a new and unpredictable chapter. The rise of artificial general intelligence could redefine both attack and defense. When machines can think, learn, and code better than humans, hacking could become autonomous, operating without human oversight. Already, Autonomous bots can scan the entire internet for vulnerabilities in minutes, exploiting weak systems and disappearing before anyone notices. Imagine a self-learning malware capable of rewriting its own code to avoid detection. Such a scenario blurs the line between artificial intelligence and artificial life. Governments and corporations are racing to regulate AI while simultaneously relying on it. Every new control creates new loopholes. Every safeguard inspires new exploits. It is an endless spiral, much like the one that began with the first mainframe decades ago. The human element, however, remains at the core of hacking. No matter how advanced technology becomes, curiosity and intent still drive the process. A hacker's mind, analytical, creative, and rebellious, cannot be replicated by code alone. This is why education and awareness have become the ultimate defenses. Teaching people how to recognize manipulation, verify information, and protect privacy matters as much as building stronger firewalls. The weakest link in cybersecurity has always been human behavior. As the world becomes more connected through smart cities, digital currencies, and the Internet of Things, every citizen becomes part of the global network. Every action leaves a trace. Every device becomes a potential door. In such a world, hacking becomes not just a technical act, but a form of influence, persuasion, and power. It can shape markets, topple governments, or protect the vulnerable. The hacker, once an outsider, is now woven into the fabric of modern civilization. If we look back at the long arc of history, from the curious tinkerers at MIT in the 1950s, through the phone phreaks, the early internet explorers, the cyberpunk revolution, and the state-sponsored hackers of today, we see a clear pattern. Hacking is evolution. It reflects the constant human urge to test limits. And perhaps that is why hacking can never be eradicated. You can build walls, laws, and firewalls, but curiosity finds a way. As we move into an era where artificial intelligence writes code and quantum computers rewrite physics, the hacker's challenge will evolve once again. The next generation of hackers may no longer deal with passwords and ports, but with algorithms, ethics, and the nature of reality itself. What began as playful experimentation has grown into one of the defining forces of the digital world. The story of hacking is the story of how humans interact with machines and how that relationship shapes the future. It reminds us that knowledge is power, but wisdom is responsibility. That curiosity, when guided by ethics, becomes innovation. And that every technology, from the telephone to quantum AI, carries within it the fingerprints of the hacker's touch. In the end, hacking is not just about breaking things. It's about understanding them. Every exploit, every system breach, every discovery is a question asked of technology. What happens if? That question is as old as invention itself. It drove the Wright brothers to fly, scientists to split the atom, and programmers to create the internet. The hacker simply continues that legacy in the digital realm. The history of hacking is, ultimately, a mirror, reflecting humanity's brilliance and its flaws. It shows how our desire to explore can lead to both progress and peril. It teaches that control without conscience leads to chaos, and curiosity without wisdom leads to destruction. But it also offers hope, because behind every exploit is a lesson, behind every breach is a discovery, and behind every hacker, ethical or otherwise, is the same spark that drives human progress. As long as there are systems to explore, there will be hackers. And as long as there are hackers, there will be innovation. This is the history of hacking, from curiosity to chaos, from code to culture, from rebellion to revolution. A story that began with blinking lights and ends with artificial intelligence, still unfinished, still evolving, written not in ink, but in code.